Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. I thought about, I don't know what I'm gonna name this video. I could name it "The Truth Set You Free," but I think I probably have 3 or 4 videos on that. And I always wonder, uh, if it's worth it for me to come on here and kind of repeat old stuff. I've had so many videos on this channel and that kind of repeat, similar things. But I kind of wanted to go over this subject and try and break it down, and then maybe put some perspective in it. Give you guys some stories and why I understand it the way I do. And I try to ground things in reality. Too much of the spiritual community, well, it's called spiritual because they don't know what else to name it, because they don't know how to ground it in reality. But if it's what's real and it's actually what's actually going on around you, people have experiences and they don't know how to explain it, and they call it spiritual. And that's why the word spiritual has been used for so long, and the why it's that way. My son just graduated from high school, and I remember when I graduated, I said, yeah, I'm really proud of you. It is an accomplishment to stick with something and do something. And then while I was sitting in the stands and I was watching, this will all progress to something that you guys can understand later, and it does have to do with how the truth can set you free. I was thinking about all these kids and how much and so many of the speeches, and this gets regurgitated every year from the valedictorians, that they realized that most of the stuff that they learn, they're going to forget. But the things that they remember are the people that they went to school with, and the relationships that they had, and the people that, encouraged them and tried to help them believe in themselves and what they're doing for one another. What else is there to remember? I mean, you're living in an auric field where it's just a bunch of interactions, heart-to-heart interactions, and the purified intent of those hearts of what people remember, and how we show up for one another. And that's all that really this thing, what we're living in, is. When I went to high school, I found out that the top 5 scores in high school had to give a speech. And so I didn't want to give a speech. I didn't know what to say. I didn't think I had anything to say. And I intentionally, and I talked about this when I was taking, because I was in AP Calculus, and at the time, I think I had one A minus. Everything else were A's. So I was going to fall into the top 5 slots, whether I liked it or not. And we had a small class. We only had 54 people that I graduated with. 53, 54, something like that. And I remember Jennifer Parrish had a 4.0. She was the only one that had a 4.0 that had an unblemished card. But I was going to be right next to Ed Goldman, who was number 2. He had a lot of pressure from his parents. They expect a lot out of him, so he wanted to be, and he was in competition with her to make sure that he got the best score. So it was kind of funny, and I didn't care. I honestly didn't care. But the reason I didn't care is different than the reason I don't care now. I think it's good to put your best effort into what you're doing, and but you don't want it to take the place of the people that are around you and how you're interacting with people. You don't want to be there's no point in trying to be better at something than somebody else. But not only that, but school, high school, and all those things, those are just a very narrow skill set. And so many people fall through the cracks because we're not really encouraging people to follow their heart and do what their heart wants to tell them to do. They're, in a way, they're just indoctrination camps to get you set into something that's going to make somebody else more money, which is sad. And that's what I was kind of thinking while I was watching my son's graduation ceremony. But the point of the story is, when I was in high school, I didn't feel comfortable with myself enough to get in front of a group of people and to be able to speak. And this YouTube channel for me personally has been an avenue where I can do that. I mean, it doesn't matter who's watching this, friends from high school, you guys all know these stories. Whoever's watching this, I encourage you not be afraid to speak up in front of a group of people and wonder why you wouldn't be able to. Is there anything you have to say? And you don't have to wonder. And this is the one thing about being grounded and being present, is you don't really have to wonder what it is you're going to say when you're asked to go speak in front of a group of people. You'll always have something. And whatever it is, it's an expression of your love for them. Even if it doesn't sound like it from the outside. It's something that you're trying to give to the people around you to express how much you care about them. And this gets back to how the truth sets you free, is what unconditional love is. Now in the Bible, I'm going to use the Bible as a reference, and there's things hidden in the Bible that are not openly stated in the Bible. If Jesus said that unconditional love was more powerful than faith. When the disciples asked him, what's the most powerful thing in the universe? Unconditional love, without a doubt. Love your neighbor as yourself. Why is it the most powerful? Now, we're not really taught why that is. Let's ground that in reality, shall we? And the Bible doesn't explain it. They just like, oh, okay, we'll just have to take his word for it. Well, if we're just taking somebody's word for something, then that becomes a belief. It doesn't become an understanding. So we have to understand what we're talking about, or else we're just taking somebody's word for it. Now I'm going to try and ground this in reality, and I'm going to try and ground this in personal experience so that you guys understand. First, we'll start with the reality side. Everything we see, doesn't matter what we're looking at, if we're looking at ourselves in the mirror, we're looking at everything out there, is we're looking at a point of awareness, or a heart, that's creating a structure in a field. And the structure is made of little tiny fields that are all exactly the same way. So and I've talked about this in other videos on my channel. So it's the Father, the source. Now, the Bible uses the word Father not as a masculine term, it's a masculine feminine term. It's Hebrew is being represented that way. Because the creativity, and I'll touch on this for a second, creativity is a masculine and a feminine quality. It's not feminine, it's not masculine, it's masculine and feminine. It has to be both. You gotta have a seed and you gotta have a womb. There's no way. You have to have information, which creates structure, and you have to have the energy, which helps that thing grow, that becomes the container for the information, the structure within the field. Masculine, there is no creative event without energy, and there is no creative event without information. And the energy is the carrier for the information. Men are naturally lazy for this reason. And women are naturally very energetic, but have less direction. So men can have all the direction in the world and sit there in bed all day. And women are, these are tendencies, these are generalizations that aren't, depending how balanced you are, we won't get into that right now. Anyway, so that's what everything is. So if that's what everything is, then we can take all the emotional attachments to temporary states of being out of it, right? Why wouldn't you love a part of yourself? Because as we expand out in the field, we see that it's still just one thing. When we expand all the way out to the galaxy, one point with a structure and a field, it's one thing. It's all collapsing back onto one point. So if you fall out of love with part of it, you're actually falling out of love with yourself. It's all one body. Doesn't matter how far out you go. It's all one thing. So if you don't love a part of it, you don't love yourself. Literally. So when you're not loving yourself, you're killing yourself, because your heart is the center. Your heart is actually, it's a return circuit in the field that you're in. So if your mind is blocking by some obscured view of what you're looking at, if you don't understand what you're looking at, then you can actually block the energy, the love, the feeling of love in your environment from getting back to you, because your mind's blocking it. Right? This is the creative circuit, a return circuit on the bottom side. So your third eye chakra, if you don't understand what you're looking at, then you're blocking the information from your heart to get into the higher chakras, the crown chakra. This is one thing that many people teach, and 99% of people teach it, and it's wrong. Sorry, I'm here to trigger you guys. That's my job. You trigger things to grow. Things don't drop down from your crown chakra. They come from here, from a releasing of the barriers in your heart. And this gets into the other story once I get done. That'll get into the other story that is my personal experience when I'll share it here. But after we have to get through the mechanics of this first. So, because everything comes from the center. Everything comes from and goes back to the center of the field that you're in. Now that point of awareness can move up and down in dimensions, but it's always going like this. It's always coming back, and that center point is connected to every other center point. And when we expand, imagine the universe as being one point and then expanding from that point all at the same time, because that's what it's doing. And it's those creative and return circuits are balanced at all times. So that's all it is. It's infinite potentiality that has its own return circuit. It's all centered at the heart. So if you don't understand what you are, and your eyes are blinded to that, then you'll come up with all these preconceived notions like, oh, that person's bad because blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, nothing is bad. It's all good. There's no such thing as good and evil. Things look like evil because they're harming themselves and causing themselves pain. So they're expressing pain into their environment because they don't understand who and what they are. And they don't understand these simple principles that I'm about to teach because they don't know how to set themselves free. And if they understood it, like what Jesus is talking about, and it's the reason why the disciples were killed, then it's not taught for a reason. And we're going to get to that by the end of this video. I felt like I needed to make this video. Sorry, a little bit of pitting out here. Had a long day, and it's humid today, and I'm drinking coffee, but it doesn't matter. You guys can't smell me, so it's okay. Anyway, so the reason he taught that, they did kill the disciples, and they wanted to hide those things, because if that truth really sets you free, and somebody wants to keep you as a slave in a system that requires you to be a slave, then why would they want the information to keep going? And that's why, Jesus said what he said in the Bible, and the reason those things aren't explained in detail, because you're just identical to everybody else. Christianity has fallen into its own belief systems that aren't grounded in reality, unfortunately, because they're trying to get you to believe in someone else. Why would you believe in somebody else if you're exactly the same as everything else? That doesn't make sense. Because if you try to externalize who you are, that's when you fall out. You're not expressing, you'll think less of yourself, for one thing. I mean, talk to 99% of the Christians out there. They all think that they're broken and not as good or whatever. Sorry, but that's not true. You're whole. That's what Jesus taught. Ye are whole. Whole in and unto yourself. And that's why he taught why unconditional love is so powerful. So think about that. If you're blocking yourself from the way you're viewing the world around you, then you're being blocked. You're blocking yourself. And I did that for years. And so this is my story. It comes down to my first girlfriend. And the reason I was really sad in high school is because I didn't think much of myself. And it had a lot to do with the way I grew up and the way my dad viewed me. And long story, but you receive things unconsciously and you don't even realize it. So I had a girlfriend for 6 months. I think I was 24 before I had my first girlfriend, and she left me for another guy. And at the time, God, I was so upset. So it's like, why is this happening to me? You know, and actually, I was in this room. Actually, this was in. It was only a couple years after this house was built. My parents lived here, and I prayed, and I said, you know, this is how I did it. I said, you know what, I love her regardless of whatever she does. I don't care. And because when you're in a lot of emotional pain, and it feels like somebody you really cared about doesn't love you, it just doesn't, felt like she just didn't give a shit about me and just walked away. Right? Then I thought, you know, it's like, what? Why would somebody? And then, and I thought, you know what? It doesn't matter to me. I love her regardless of whatever she does. And I prayed, you know, Jesus, the angels, whoever. You know, I put out there, and then I felt this huge release around my heart, and it washed over my entire body, just poof, all the pain. Because you know, when you're in a poor emotional state, it manifests as physical pain, and it all got washed away, and it was the most amazing feeling. And then, boom, I went to sleep because I wasn't able to sleep. You know, when you're upset about, you know, relationships are everything. And you don't realize it, but the people around you are a mirror of the relationship with yourself. You're married to everything, whether you like it or not. And your existence depends on it. You can't, you know, I saw somebody making a video about this, but recently, about, you know, 2 modes of spirituality where people are detaching from the world. You can't detach. Now, there is a way to listen without being affected by what's going on around you, because you're understanding what's going on around you. That's totally different than just detaching and having no interest in it whatsoever. I'm making this video because I'm interested in you. And then I hope in the long term that you'll be interested in me too, because I'm no better than anybody else. It takes a long time to gain understanding, I can tell you that. I was just completely washed away. And then the next morning I woke up, and it felt like I had got slapped onto a live wire. Like I was like, imagine, I'm an electrician, so I've been shocked quite a few times. I've felt 60 hertz. 60 hertz hurts, but you can actually feel the cycles. 60 waves per second. Bang, 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 bang. I mean, it's really fast, but it's nothing like this. This was like super high frequency, and it felt so euphoric. I wasn't hungry, I wasn't sad, I wasn't happy, I wasn't anything. I was just kind of like, you know, you're just like, because it was a huge pain release, and it was like the pericardium, and the Bible talks about this, the circumcision of the heart. Our bodies have a natural watery sac around our heart called the pericardium. So it has a spiritual or energetic duplicate, because everything manifests energetically into the physical. There has to be energy and information for it to move and create the thing that you're looking at. Right? It's all coming from one place, and it's a marriage between the masculine and feminine portions to actually create what it is you're looking at. Energy and information. If that breaks open, now you have all access to the field where there was a barrier before, and most people haven't gone through that experience, so they have an energetic blockage. And I hope this is, if you've never had that experience, then you do, unfortunately. And I would love to be able to help you, or help you understand why that's there. It's cat. Why that's there and how to get rid of it. Because ideally you want to get rid of that, because it will free you up, because the truth sets you free. You don't want to be able to hold somebody in debt. You always hold somebody in debt if you don't have that barrier unblocked, because you won't have the information. You won't be able to see with new eyes. The blindfold won't come off. Holding people in debt is the most self-destructive thing you can possibly do. To say that anyone owes you anything. Because you are your own source. It's right there in the reality around you. That's why you're whole. So if you're ever holding somebody in debt, or to say like, look, if somebody asks you to do something, for example, somebody asks me to do something, I'll be like, sure, I'll be more than happy to help you. I stay open to receive. I don't care whether or not they pay me. Now, if they have the means to pay me, I believe that they probably should. But if they don't, it doesn't change my opinion of them. I don't know where they have their funds allocated, or if they just really needed my help to do something that they couldn't do for themselves. I know in the long run that'll come back to me from somebody else, if not from them. And it doesn't matter if it comes back from them, because everything that I'm looking at in this reality is me. And that's true. There's nothing that isn't me, whether there's a tree or a bug or a rock or a car or whatever. And that was part of the blockage I had in high school. You know, I loved everybody in high school, and everybody talked about that. Oh, Brian's the nicest guy, but I never liked myself because I never felt the way that I viewed the people around me. And it always bothered me when people would look down on one another, and I was like, hey, why are you guys doing this? But until you really see, you won't see the momentum of your environments and why they're moving in certain directions. When we're externalizing ourselves and we're not prioritizing how we interact and how we heal one another, to make sure that we're not falling into any kind of negative perceptions of one another. I mean, in this country, we still have these long-standing, we're still talking about Black History Month or whatever. If it's based on race, we're missing the mark. You're looking at a structure in a field. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It could be orange, black, yellow. Who cares? It just does not matter. It's so irrelevant. It blows my mind that we're still talking about it. But energy has momentum. You know, information has momentum, and people get their mind stuck on one thing. And you know, when you've got hundreds, thousands of years of suppression because of the way you look, right? It's hard to get rid of that momentum. It's hard to, you know, we got the whole country of Africa is stuck in that momentum, and you know, nobody wants to be a slave. I don't want to be a slave. And in some ways, we are a slave to ourselves, but you don't have to be. We can trigger each other to grow and set good boundaries to say, you know, whatever you believe is great, but your belief will create your reality. And if you're believing in something that's not real, then you'll create pain for yourself because you're believing in something that's not true. Yeah. And so after that event, I accepted, I just accepted. It didn't bother me that she was seeing somebody else. And I had to let it go. And one thing I asked is I really wanted to be in contact with her kids because she had kids and I didn't want them to, you know, I said, you know, I explained it all to her and she was fine. She was okay with it. And so she actually let me continue to see the kids. At first she was like, I don't know if that's a good idea because, you know, you don't want. So I don't know, that's fine. I don't need a relationship from you, but I got close to her kids. And I don't want them to have to, you know, and they enjoyed my company because I'm a kid anyway. I mean, play games with them, you know, whatever, you know, they wanted to do, I wanted to do. Didn't need to be what I wanted to do. I just wanted to do whatever they wanted to do. And so, she let me stay in contact with him. And in the end, she married that guy that she left me for, and then she divorced him right away. And then we got back together for a little while. And it was, and I know it was because I just accepted whatever choices she wanted to make, and loved her, regardless of whatever decisions she wanted to make. And we were together again for another year, and then it ended because she went on vacation and met somebody else. But I received just an amazing relationship with these kids, and got to grow up with them. And I still call Sam my daughter, and one of them unfortunately died, and he was 24. But Sam is a beautiful daughter. I am so grateful for having her as family. But that's just part of my story. There's so many other stories that I could tell you where unconditional love saved me, and it was much more powerful than anything else that I've ever seen in this world. And never hold somebody in debt in your mind that they owe you something. I just got done talking to somebody from Australia that I'm hopefully we get this project off the ground. It's called Co-Creation Global, about doctors and how the medical industry is so messed up now because the Hippocratic Oath has kind of fallen apart, where a doctor will agree, it doesn't matter how much money you have, if a doctor should help you regardless of your financial situation. If you're in critical illness, you don't turn somebody away because they don't have any money. You help them. But we've created a public system that has to take care of those people that don't have any money and still hold the public in debt for that. Why would we create a system of debt because somebody doesn't know what they're doing to themselves? They're blind and they cannot see. And this is one of the most powerful statements in the Bible. When Jesus died, right before he died, he said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." Why would you blame somebody for not knowing what they're doing to themselves? How could you? It doesn't make any sense. Are you going to persecute a blind man for being blind? All you can do is speak the truth from a position of neutrality and just say that I love you. And that's all. That's the only thing that really matters. And if that truth doesn't turn out to be true, great. Whatever the truth is, it's going to set you free. So if you can figure it out, it'll do it. And I know for a fact that unconditional love will set you free, whether you like it or not. It's the most powerful thing in the universe. Behind faith, and you really do need to have faith and understanding in order to heal. And this, I guess I'll finish this off in the last part of this message, is that we are going to create groups of people where people are just going to be in lines, and we're going to heal them of everything that they. For one thing, once you understand that you're just a structure in a field, and there's infinite potential information and structure from the center of that field, all you got to do is help people understand that. Right now, we're caught in a lot of hypnotherapy treatments because you can put the mind to sleep if somebody doesn't understand something, and then give suggestions so the body heals, and that does work. But once we understand what we're doing and who and what we are, we're just creator expressing itself in an infinite number of ways. And there's infinite creative potential in every thing that you see and hear. It just has to understand itself in order to do so. So you can get groups, as long as you have the right information, and you can reprogram the mind to understand what it is. Call it an indoctrination, but I like to be indoctrinated of things that are true, right? Not things that are false. I don't want to be indoctrinated for something that's not real. You just have to have enough energy to move it. So groups of men and women working together who are balanced, who can create that emotional state on that carrier frequency to heal the body. Anything can be healed. Doesn't matter what it is. Absolutely anything. You surrender to what you're looking at, and there's people that have various modes of women are generally better at because of their listening ability comes to their intuitive ability and their attractiveness. So a lot of times they're much better at diagnosing what they're looking at to say, okay, this is the momentum of this that's coming towards me. Masculine side is more creative and potential, create something new. What are you creating in the field? It's both masculine and feminine, right? Because it's got to have a carrier, got to have the energy to carry the frequency. So one is biased toward the other, right? Men are more biased towards the information, less on the energy, and women are more biased on the energy and less on the information, but they're both carrying both. And so when men and women come together in the right way, they really complement one another and really expand their abilities amazingly if they really understand themselves. To surrender to what's in front of you and to be able to shift the momentum so that you can shift it like that and bang, instantaneous healing. Seen, heard it. But if you're believing in something external that's causing it, it'll be less effective. Joe Dispenza has great videos understanding, how those things work. Mostly he uses a lot of hypnotic therapy or suggestion to crowds, and then and really trying to get behind the science of it. But it's really simple. You're just a structure. You're not the structure in the field as a part of you. You are source expressing itself as a structure in a field that's constantly changing according to its own understanding. And that's why everything looks the way it does. A tree is just a tree. It doesn't understand anything else. It's not trying to think it's something else. But we could, I don't know. I mean, the future is really unlimited. I mean, shape-shifting, traveling with just a thought, you're just a point of awareness, I feel. Love you guys. I hope I didn't mumble on or confuse you guys in any way. I just wanted to get this done because I want to work out and take a shower and get some other stuff done before I go to bed tonight. It's getting late. I was just in a late meeting, but love you guys infinitely. That's why I make these videos, and it's why I do this channel. So, and I've got more stories about how unconditional love saved my butt. Even when people were, turning away from me or turning against me in some way, and I just said, okay, whatever. And I kept reaching out because I don't care. Whatever decision you make makes no difference to me. I still love you. But eventually you walk away, just don't like what I'm doing. Doesn't matter. Still love you. I don't judge because we're all not understand, right? It's like, why would you judge a blind man? How can I judge myself? I am blind to so many things. I just understand that one rule. I already know that I will always not understand things. And that's the way it's built. That's why that rule works. Don't ever hold anybody in debt. And eventually, all the money in this world will go away because of that realization. It's okay to accept something, but, and we've created something, but if it's created out of a mindset of trying to keep somebody in slavery, to say that this person has more power than this person because of this external thing, you've missed the mark. You don't understand in this universe you're living in, which is why they killed the disciples. They had to have people coming paying for them and putting money in somebody else's pocket to keep them in power and worshiping that thing, or they were going to lose everybody. Because the other thing, that understanding that I just gave you in this video, is way more powerful than the other. And they were going to lose it. They had to kill them off and hide it in the text. Don't hold yourself in debt of anything. And you won't hold anybody else in debt. Love you guys. Have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you in the next one.